Today, we're going to tackle something that can feel like a real tangled mess: the Docker command line interface. Our goal here is to unravel it and show you the simple, almost elegant logic that's hiding in plain sight. So let's just dive right in. You know that feeling, right? You type docker-help for the first time, or you check out the official docs, and you just get this sense of, whoa. It's a massive wall of text that just scrolls right past your screen, and it's so easy to think, how am I ever going to memorize all of this? And it just keeps going and going. Build, run, PS, compose, system, network, volume. The list feels endless. Honestly, it looks like pure chaos, like someone just dumped a toolbox on the floor and walked away. No organization at all. But what if I told you there's a secret? A simple, repeatable pattern that once you see it, makes this entire list just click. It all snaps into focus. And that's exactly what we're here to uncover. Okay, so the very first step to getting that clarity is understanding that there's a single gateway, a single front door for every single Docker operation. This is our foundation. Every single command, and I mean without exception, starts with one word: Docker. Just think of this as your workshop. Before you can build anything or grab any tool, you have to step into the workshop first. It's the one constant you can always count on. And here it is. This is the secret key. The pattern is just Docker, followed by the thing you want to manage, that's the object or the noun, and then what you want to do to it, the action or the verb. So Docker, object, action. That's it. You master this simple idea, and you've basically mastered the logic of the entire CLI. So let's put this pattern to the test, right? We'll start with the two most common objects you're going to be working with pretty much every day: images and containers. Now, it's absolutely crucial to get the difference here. An image is the blueprint. Think of it as a static, read-only template that has your application and everything it needs to run. A container, on the other hand, is the actual running product that you create from that blueprint. You can spin up tons of containers from just one image, just like you could build a whole neighborhood of houses from a single blueprint. Let's watch our pattern in a real-world workflow. First, you've got your Docker file, and you tell Docker, for the object image, I want to perform the action build. Done. Now you have a blueprint. Next, you tell Docker, for the object container, I want to run it using my new image. Want to see what's running? Easy. You ask Docker to ls or list the container object. And to stop it, you guessed it, Docker container stop. See? Object, action. It's that simple every time. And this is where it gets really powerful. Just look at how this pattern scales across the whole system. To list your images, it's Docker image ls. To list your containers, Docker container ls. You see the pattern for networks and volumes? It's the exact same logic. The action, like ls to list or rm to remove, it stays the same. You just swap out the object you're talking to. This table just lays it out perfectly. It's all about consistency. Okay, so we've got a handle on managing individual blueprints and products. But what happens when our application is more complex? You know, like a full assembly kit with a bunch of different parts that all have to work together. Well, that's where Docker Compose comes in. It's a special command for managing applications that have multiple containers. We're talking a web server, a database, a caching layer, all working in concert. It's basically the master instruction manual for your entire application stack. And with Compose, you get these really simple but powerful actions. You type Docker Compose up, and your entire application comes to life. Docker Compose down stops everything cleanly. You can build all your services at once or peek at the combined logs from everything. It takes our object action idea and just scales it up to your whole project. So now that we understand the commands, let's talk about how we can customize our workbench, to make it fit our own workflow a little better. Docker's behavior can actually be tweaked through this one little configuration file called config.json. You'll usually find it tucked away in a hidden .docker directory right in your home folder. This is like the central control panel for your Docker client. So what can you actually change in there? Well, a lot. You can set up a custom format for your Docker PS output, so it always shows you exactly the info you care about. You can configure proxy settings for all your containers, or, and this is a big one for some folks, you can even change that famous CTRL and pctr-q key sequence for detaching from a running container. Now, for a really, really important point, straight from the documentation. Your config.json file can end up holding sensitive data, things like authentication tokens or proxy passwords. So you have to be super careful. Always review what's in there before you share it with anyone, or, say, commit it to a public code repository. So what happens if you have conflicting settings? Which one wins? Well, Docker has a really clear hierarchy. Command line flags, like if you type docker host, are the most powerful. They always win, period. Next in line are environment variables, like docker host. And at the very bottom, providing the defaults, is your config.json file. So the key takeaway is flags always beat variables, and variables always beat the config file. All right, finally, let's look at the commands for managing the Docker system itself. This is all about keeping your workshop clean, organized, and running as efficiently as possible. So here, our object is system. You can get a whole bunch of info about your setup with Docker system info. You can see how much disk space all your images, containers, and volumes are hogging with Docker system df. And maybe the most useful one of all for cleanup, Docker system prune. This command is like a tidy up button for your whole setup. It safely gets rid of all the old images, stopped containers, and unused networks. So satisfying. So if you take just one thing away from all this, let it be this. Learn to think in objects. Whenever you want to do something in Docker, the first question you should ask is, what am I trying to manage? Is it a container, an image, a network? Once you've identified that object, the action you need to take becomes so much clearer. That chaos of commands we saw at the beginning, hopefully it now looks like a clear, predictable structure. The entire Docker CLI is unlocked, so the only question left is, what will you build with it?